brother.
Quick question. Now you've been saying the N-word?
No. I mean, I've thought it pretty loud a couple times, but I don't say it.
In a recent episode of This Past Weekend, Taiwanese streamer Ray, known online as Ray Asian Boy, sat down with Theo Von for a long-form, loose, note seatbelt type conversation. Ray is 20, Theo is in his mid-40s. That age gap alone kind of sets the tone. One guy grew up on Twitch, the other guy grew up when the internet made dial-up noises. Early in the episode, they jump straight into slur territory. Not easing in, not how was your flight, just straight into talking about the N-word. Whether they've said it, whether you can sing it in a song, and whether there should be some imaginary curfew window where lyrics don't count. At one point, Ray says he once said it on stream while singing along to a song and that it was accidental. Theo says he doesn't say it and jokes about the idea of anesthesia being the only way it would slip out. Then they start riffing off the idea of designated time, where you could sing it like it's some kind of a municipal holiday for bad decisions. You can hear the moment where they realize the bit is getting dangerous. Theo literally says they might need to start over, and they do.
I'm gonna be spamming, yo, what's up? Feel me? I'm gonna be spamming that shit like that.
Bro,
I hope
we
they can
should
make it day, bro.
definitely, you and me should do a collab where we, no, we can't do we can't do an N-word collab, bro.
Yeah.
Ray, you're setting me up, bro.
Nah, I'm not,
You are
bro.
a spy, bro.
I am a spy, but we don't gotta say it out loud,
But we already said it.
oh my God. I mean, damn, bro.
Let's start over.
Yeah, let's start over. Let's restart.
Yeah.
podcast. Yeah.
We'll keep it in, but we'll
Okay,
restart.
They reset the intro while the recording is still rolling. They acknowledge it out loud. That restart is important. It shows they're aware of the line. It also shows they're willing to dance on it anyways. After that, the episode shifts into what feels more like chaotic internet uncle energy. They joke about Theo being from the South. Ray throws out, "So you're racist." In that blunt Gen Z delivery that's half joke, half pressure test, Theo plays along. It's the back and forth where the tension itself becomes entertainment. And that's really the engine of the episode. Not a structured discussion about race, not a debate, just pushing buttons, seeing which one lights up. They also drift into absurd territory. Ray calls streamer Jack Doherty the Christopher Columbus of streaming, which is funny depending on how you hear it. Some people hear pioneer, other people hear colonizer. That's kind of the recurring theme with the episode. Interpretation does half the work. Then there's a whole segment about average Taiwanese anatomy statistics. It turns into mock documentary style commentary, like they're narrating a nature special about the human body. It's crude, sure, but not racially hostile, just very internet brained. Most of the episode is actually about streaming culture. Ray explains how streaming feels different from podcasting. Theo plays fascinated older guy trying to understand Twitch. That part is relatively normal, but the early slur conversation is what stuck with people. Now, to understand why that landed loudly, you have to zoom out. Ray hasn't exactly had a quiet relationship with race-related controversy. In late 2024, Ray faced backlash after appearing on Kai Cenat's stream during Mafiathon 2. Coverage from Black Enterprise reported that he made remarks distinguishing between what he described as two different types of black people.
We're different, black people, bro. No racist shit. One is black people. Another one is the hard R. You the hard R. There's some people, it's just a black guy. They look nice, they look good, they look nice, they go to
You said I'm a hard R?
You the hard R. You the type of one is hard R. All my friends hard R.
Commentary widely criticized as racially offensive. That situation also led to online pressure on Kai Cenat for not publicly condemning Ray's comments. Another outlet's Aftermath covered Ray's discussing how navigating racial language online had been a major issue for him as a streamer, particularly around accidentally saying the N-word while singing along to music. So when he goes on Theo's podcast and jokes about a day where everyone can say it, people who remember those earlier incidents aren't hearing it in isolation. They're hearing it in context. That doesn't mean the podcast episode itself was structured as a serious racial commentary. It wasn't. It was a chaotic banter, but the history adds weight. Theo on his side has documented a pattern of hosting conversations that wander into racial or ethnic territory. Sometimes deliberately, sometimes because that's where his improv brain goes. One example that made mainstream headlines, his 2024 episode featuring Roseanne Barr. During that interview, Barr made comments about the Holocaust that violated YouTube hate speech policies. The platform removed the episode. Theo defended her afterwards, arguing context mattered, but the fact remains, the episode was pulled for policy violations. Another instance came in June 2025 when Vice President J.D. Vance appeared on The Past Weekend during a segment about historical figures. Theo joked about whether Frederick Douglass might have been a little zesty. The exchange drew criticism from some commentators who felt that the tone trivialized Douglass' legacy as an abolitionist. The transcript shows Theo raising the idea conversationally. Vance responded with uncertainty and the topic moving on. It wasn't a monologue. It was an off-the-cuff moment, but it circulated. Then there was Theo's performance at Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar in 2025. Ahead of a Donald Trump appearance, the Associated Press reported that Theo's set included jokes touching on drugs, disabilities, homosexuality, and Qatari culture, with mixed reactions from the audience. Again, not identical situations, but consistent pattern. Theo's comedy style regularly walks into socially sensitive areas. Another episode worth mentioning is number 586, with comedian Nigel Ng, known for the Uncle Roger character. In that conversation, Theo and Ng joked about Asian stereotypes, including which Asians were most vain and which are most squint. Theo also compared Ng's last name, Ng, to the N-word, joking about how it sounds similar.
Nigel. Nigel.
Yes.
And how do you say the last name?
Ng. It's
Nigel
a
Ng.
Southeast Asian, Malaysian last name. That's where I'm
Okay.
from originally.
Yeah, that's the living. You're the damn living in word right there. I can't even.
I know. It's dangerous, isn't it?
Oh,
It's dangerous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. yeah.
Just a few letters away.
It's risky,
That's
brother.
an N-I-G. There's no A in there, thankfully.
Yeah, but there's enough there. I think where like people would be like, "What's going
Yeah,
on here?"
there's that Vietnamese, that's that meme of the Vietnamese restaurant. The name of the restaurant is BICHNGA.
Oh, meeting Look, just ordering food, huh?
Yeah.
Later in that same episode, they riffed off an idea about auctioning off the right to say the N-word, escalating the absurdity for comedic effect. That's not a hidden clip dug up from 2009. That's a recent episode transcript. So when Ray comes on and the two of them start circling the same word again, it doesn't feel random, it feels on brand. Now here's what's also true. Theo's audience tends to expect that style. His show isn't tightly scripted, late night TV, it's long form, loose conversation. He frequently jokes about stereotypes involving himself, being Southern, being white, being a former addict, being socially awkward. The racial humor shows up in the same chaotic ecosystem. Ray's humor style is also built on discomfort. Streaming culture rewards shock value. The chat reacts instantly. If something is edgy, it spreads faster. That feedback loop shapes how creators talk. In the Ray episode, the slur conversation occupies a relatively small percentage of the runtime. The rest is culture talk, generational differences, streaming machines, dating, random absurdities, but controversy doesn't track by percentage of runtime. It tracks by the clip potential. And that's internet math. The restart moment is almost symbolic of modern podcasting. They acknowledge the risk in real time, they reset, but they leave the risk part in anyway. That transparency is part of the brand. It's also worth noting that neither Theo nor Ray advocated for real-world harm in the episode. The slur talk was framed as taboo humor, not an endorsement of racism as ideology. The tension comes from referencing the word, not promoting a worldview. Still, the difference between referencing and normalizing is where debates usually land. Some fans praise the episode for being raw, unscripted. Comment sections highlighted Ray's quick wit and his ability to volley with Theo despite English being his second language. Critics argue that repeatedly turning slurs into punchline trivializes their history. Both reactions showed up online. The broader pattern here is less about a single episode and more about a genre. Podcast comedy in 2026 is built on authenticity theater. The goal is to sound like you're not filtering yourself. That means sometimes you brush up against topic that traditional media avoids entirely. Theo Von isn't unique in that. He's just one of the more visible examples. Ray isn't unique either. Streamers frequently collide with racial language issues because music lyrics, gaming culture, and live chat environments blur boundaries quickly. When those two styles combine, Theo's rambling boundary pusher, and Ray's internet native shock cadence, you get what happens in that episode. No formal apology segment, no academic breakdown, just two guys talking and occasionally stepping on verbal landmines. Looking across Theo's catalog, race-related humor shows up periodically, often as an improvisational bitch rather than a structured commentary. The Nigel Ung episode is a clear example. The J.D. Vance exchange about Frederick Douglass is another. The Roseanne episode demonstrates what happens when a guest goes further than the platform allows. Ray's controversies largely stem from live stream spontaneity rather than podcast format. The Black Enterprise coverage highlighted how quickly clips can spread and how community backlash can escalate when racial language enters the mix. So the Ray episode of the past weekend sits at the intersection of those two trajectories. If you're watching it purely as entertainment, it feels like chaotic cross-culture banter with some reckless jokes thrown in. If you're watching it through the lens of previous controversies, it feels like revisiting an unresolved theme. And if you're analyzing it from a media standpoint, it's another example of how long-form digital conversations differ from traditional broadcast norms. There's no editing out awkward pauses, no PR buffer, no network standards department hovering over the shoulder, just microphones and momentum. The episode didn't get pulled, it didn't trigger a platform takedown like the Roseanne one did, it circulated normally. That alone distinguishes it from some of Theo's previous controversies. In terms of structures, it follows the familiar arc. Start wild, stabilize, drift into absurd tangents, wrap up without formal resolution. Racial humor segment aren't framed as educational or activist. They're framed as taboo jokes. Whether someone finds that funny or not depends heavily on personal thresholds. What's consistent across Theo's more controversial moments is the improvisational delivery. The Frederick Douglass remark wasn't a rehearsed bit, it was a conversational. The Nigel Ung episode wasn't a monologue about Asian stereotypes, it was two comedians escalating each other. Same with Ray, they escalate, they test, they pivot. That's the rhythm. And the audience splits along predictable lines, those who appreciate boundary pushing humor and those who see repetition of sensitive language as unnecessary. The internet doesn't flatten those differences, it amplifies them. So when you zoom all the way out, the Ray episode is less an outlier and more a continuation. Theo has a track record of episodes where racial or ethnic topics surface in unscripted ways. Ray has a track record of race-related backlash from live stream clips. Put them in the same room, and you were never going to get a perfectly sanitized conversation. You were going to get tension. You were going to get awkward laughter. You were probably going to get at least one restart. And that's exactly what happens. From a purely factual standpoint, they discussed slurs, they joked about hypothetical rules around them, they reset the intro after a risky stretch, the episode continued normally afterwards, online reactions were mixed. Both individuals have prior moments where race-related humor or comments sparked criticism. None of those prior incidents permanently removed either from their platforms. That's the landscape. No dramatic cancellation arc, no major legal consequences, no official investigations. Just another entry in the long-running category of internet personalities testing the edge of language. And realistically, as long as long-form podcast remains popular and unscripted, moments like this will keep happening. Not necessarily with the same word, not necessarily with the same guest, but the formula is baked into that format. Two people, no script, 2 hours, zero guardrails, that's the show. If you guys are brand new to the channel, drop a like and a sub, and let us know how we did in the comment sections. Peace out, guys.